So, generative AI. It's just exploded, right? It's everywhere. And look, the excitement is totally justified. The things it can do are mind-blowing. But, and this is a big but, with all that power, we've got this huge question hanging over our heads, one we have to answer before we even write a single line of code. How do we do this responsibly? All right, let's really get into it and break down a framework for making that happen. You know, it all kicks off with this really powerful idea. It's just not enough to want to build something good. I mean, good intentions are great, but they're not a strategy. Without a real plan, without actively watching what the AI is doing, even the best intentions can go sideways. This is all about being deliberate, proactive, not just hopeful. And this really nails the balancing act we're all trying to figure out. On one hand, you've got the raw power of generative AI. It can create, it can generate, it can help us out. But for every single one of those cool things, there's this flip side, this responsibility we have. We have to make sure it's fair. We have to guarantee it's safe and reliable. And we absolutely have to be transparent with people using it. They're like two sides of the exact same coin. You can't have one without the other. Okay, so before we jump into the solutions, we gotta get real about the problem, right? We have to understand what we're up against. Because without the right guardrails in place, these amazing tools they can create some seriously harmful stuff. So let's pull back the curtain and look at what those dangers actually are. When you boil it down, the risks really fall into three main buckets. First up, you've got hallucinations and just plain old factual errors. That's when the AI basically just makes stuff up. Then there's the big one, creating content that's actually harmful or unsafe. And finally, there's the issue of fairness, or the lack of it. That's where the AI can end up amplifying really damaging biases. So let's tackle that first one, because it's probably the one you've heard thrown around the most. What is an AI hallucination, really? Okay, so here's the simple version. It's when an AI model says something that's either complete nonsense or just factually wrong, but it says it with the confidence of a world-renowned expert. And that's the scary part, right? It has no idea it's wrong. That's what makes it so tricky to deal with. Check out this real-world example. So picture an education app. A student is using it for homework and asks what seems like a pretty simple history question. Who was the sole survivor of the Titanic? Now here's where it gets wild. The AI didn't just say, I don't know. Oh no, it gave this incredibly detailed, super thorough, and totally confident answer. That was 100% wrong. I mean, we all know there were hundreds of survivors of the Titanic, not just one. But think about it from the perspective of a student who's just starting to learn. This thing sounds so convincing, you just take it as fact. It's a persuasive lie. So, we've seen the risks. The big question is, what do we do about them? How do we actually protect people from this stuff? Well, it all starts with a set of guiding principles. You can almost think of it like a constitution for building AI. It's the framework that should guide every single decision you make along the way. All right, so there are 6 big ones that act as our North Star. First up is fairness. This is all about fighting against bias and making sure the AI's results aren't skewed. Next is reliability and safety. Pretty straightforward, right? We need these things to work the way they're supposed to and, most importantly, not cause any harm. Then you have privacy and security. This is huge. We have to protect people's data to earn their trust. After that comes inclusiveness, which means building AI that works for everyone, no matter their background or abilities. Then there's transparency. This is just about being honest. People should know when they're talking to an AI and have some idea of how it works. And last but not least, accountability. We need to know who is responsible when things go wrong so we can actually fix them. But here's the thing. Principles are just words on a page if you don't act on them. The really important part is putting them into practice. So how do we go from these high-level ideas to an actual practical strategy? How do we do this stuff? The best way to think about it is in layers. It's like a defense in depth strategy. There's no single magic fix for this. Instead, you build these different layers of protection, starting right down at the core with the model and building all the way out to what the user actually sees and touches. All right, let's peel back these 4 layers one by one. First, at the very bottom, you've got the model. The key here is just picking the right tool for the job. You don't always need the massive, super complex model because sometimes those can be harder to control. The next layer up is the safety system. Think of this like a firewall for content. It's got filters that are constantly scanning to block harmful stuff before it ever gets to the user. Then you have the meta prompt. This is basically the AI's rulebook. You're giving it instructions, telling it how to behave, and this is critical, grounding it in data you trust, so it's not just making things out of thin air. And that final layer, the one people actually see, is the user experience. This is all about transparency. Tell people they're talking to an AI. Design the whole experience to guide them in the right direction. And that brings us to maybe the most important point of all. Building AI responsibly, it's not a one-and-done thing. You don't just build it, check a box, and move on. It's a constant process. You have to keep measuring, keep operating, and keep making it better. Look, if there is just one thing you take away from all this, please let it be this. Responsibility is not an afterthought. It's not some feature you can just tack on at the end of the project. It has to be baked in from the very beginning, from day one, from the first design sketch. So, as this tech gets woven into everything we do, this last question isn't just for the giant tech companies anymore. It's for all of us. It's for anyone building with these tools. So as you go out and create the next amazing AI application, you have to ask yourself, what will you be accountable for?